Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawkes here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware anytime we put new content on. As always, we'd love to thank our channel sponsors, Untuck Check them out in the description below. So today's guest has been we do Nick, basically we do a lunchtime show. So we do a show every lunchtime, sort of during lockdown. And people said, we need to get Nick on. And I was like, is he a West Ham fan? And he was like, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And I was like, he was born in Bristol. It's like, yeah,
correct.
That's what he's yeah. So he's like, anyway, so we've got Nick Brimble. He's, star of TV and film, but more importantly, massive West Ham fan. So how are we doing, Nick?
I'm doing very well, Russ. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to hear from you, man. Good to hear from you. How's it been in the last 15 months or so for you?
Well, it's been perfectly all right for me, to be quite honest. I'm on a TV show which we managed to shoot a series all the way through lockdown last time.
Brilliant.
It got closed down a couple of times, and then we got through it in the end, and then we're starting again now. And I do voiceovers, which I've done, converted my little spare bedroom into a studio, hanging duvets all over the place. And I've been managing to do them as well. I did one for the Premier League a couple of weeks back, about maybe a month back. So that was fun.
Brilliant. Yeah,
so I'm still doing stuff. And I think it's hard for young people, really, kids who are, in my business, if you're trying to work in the theatre like I did for years and years and years, they're all closed down. I don't know what you do, nothing.
Yeah.
You're completely screwed.
You're very right. I mean, we've interviewed lots of musicians and actors and, guys up in the have been up in the West End and, they've just been, like, what do you do?
I've got grandchildren who are the age where they should be going out with their friends and, having parties and all that stuff. And that's tough, much tougher for people that age than me. I can sit at home and do stuff.
Yeah, but also the flip side is that the younger age are more suited to this sort of technology, as we said before we started. You had the Zoom calls and Audacities and things like that. You had to sort of learn on the fly in the last 15 months or so. So they're all. I mean, my daughter, she's 9, and she knows no different. Different. She's on a TikTok and a Zoom calls and chatting to her friends here and there, and they're used to it. But it's. I think it's going to be weird, as I said. I don't think I've ever spoken, even at my work and stuff. I don't think I've spoken to so many people so often because we have like daily Zoom calls and I didn't have that when I was in the office. We barely looked up at each other, and so.
Of course, the worst thing's been that, but the West Ham's best season for blooming decades.
Segue. Yeah, exactly.
That's so typical, isn't it, of being a West Ham fan? You missed the best season.
I know it's been, and it's frustrating. And people have as I said before, obviously I've still been there, and so people have come to me and said, "Oh, no fans at the stadiums helped us out," and yada yada. And there's times where I've agreed, and there's times which I've said, "No, actually, I think if we had, at the beginning of the season, definitely last season, definitely having no fans there, and it wasn't a nice place." And then throughout the season, you look at some of the games. I think when we drew 3-3 with Arsenal, and we were 3-0 up, and that would never have happened with 60,000 fans shouting at them to keep going and playing on. But it is what it is, wasn't it? And great season, European tour next year. Looking forward to it. Not long to go.
We haven't got a big enough squad, though, have we?
Do you know
we didn't have a big enough squad for last season? And how are we going to manage next season?
That's such a West Ham.
I think I might get a game.
Yeah, well, I take my boots every week, Nick, just in case. I can definitely offer something different in the final third, that's for sure. But that's a typical West Ham response, isn't it? Like when we were talking about, we got into Europe. Oh yeah, we're in Europe, brilliant. Oh, we're not going to survive. We're going to have a bad season. It's like, I know. Yeah, typical. But this team's different. I think this squad's, where previous years, we've promised so much and it sort of drifted away a little bit. There's something different about this squad. I think there's something different with the Mosiah. Yeah, just a team spirit. It's just like a bit like the old school mentality about it now. It's not, and I like the way that he's come in and the first thing he did was, get rid of Haller for half the money we paid for him and ship out for Felipe Anderson and just get his own team, his own players in. I like Moyes. I like Moyes.
Well, I do too, but I'll say another typical West Ham thing: it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think I've survived the whole sort of Euro 2020 stuff, because it's like, just shoved it off. My wife was in bits, and she's only just got into football like for the Euros, and she was like, "Aren't you upset?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll tell you upsetting. 2006 Steven Gerrard FA Cup final. That's upsetting, you know."
That was upsetting. I'll tell you upsetting. Willie Young hacking down Paul Allen from behind. That still upsets me now.
Oh, it's only a yellow card. How was that?
How could that be a yellow? Well, they invented a red card for goals. If you threw on a goal, professional foul when you threw on the goal, I think that's when they invented the red card for that, from that foul.
Oh well, it didn't work with
execution wasn't good enough for that.
Exactly, that's why it didn't work with Chiellini, did it? Chiellini on the other day for the Euro final, dragging back Saka. But anyway, it's all done. We've only got 4 or 5 weeks to wait, Nick, and it all starts again soon.
I know.
It's crazy, isn't it? It just doesn't seem to be a break.
I've got my ticket ready, but I don't know whether I can go at the beginning because I'm working, and you've got to get there on the tube. 60,000 people on the tube.
I know. Do you know what? It was funny. I think because obviously during lockdown, basically, you know, we had like, I think it was 300 of us who could go, and so they converted sort of the outside bits, the sort of the gantry outside where you had all the burger bars and stuff. That became like a car park for like the staff. So I was driving. I had a car park space. 20 years. I finally got a car park space. So I had a car park space. And then obviously we played Man United, and we had 2,500 fans in. I had to get the train for that, which was weird. And then the last time I got the train was the last game of the season. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'll be honest. It's so weird now. I get scared.
I gave up driving to Upton Park years and years ago. We used to be able to just drive there and park, and then that became impossible. So
it was the bins, wasn't it? They used to take the bins out, all the residents.
Well, they used to all come, when you came out the ground, they'd all say to you, "Hey, mister, how did we get on?" But then that all changed. In the end, nobody was interested really around there.
No one cared. Took the car park spaces back. Yeah, I used to remember that my granddad, bless him, he had this massive Vauxhall Cavalier, and he used to just nudge the car in front of him if there wasn't enough space. Oh dear! Move the bin, Russ. Just move the bin back. No, you can't. Just move the bin. Literally like a bin space. Oh yeah, God, that was funny. Or when you got the train and the old, and you went to Upton Park, and you got to the station and the district line was down, and you had to turn around and go all the way back to Barking.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the days.
I still don't go all the way to Stratford now. I get off at West Ham and walk along the Greenway.
Nice.
Much nicer.
Much nicer. You don't get the older red and stop and go signs, do you, as well, which is nice. Yeah.
I hate all that, and that walking around that ring road thing, that's just misery. It's not like the old days, but there you go.
No, it's a long walk, isn't it? It's a long walk, and I think it's different as well. I mean, it was a fair walk from Upton Park to the stadium, but there was stalls and stuff like that. I think they're trying to do some of that.
Ken's Cafe and all that,
Ken's Cafe.
Yeah.
All those burger vans, which you didn't quite know what meat was being sold. But it was always £1 on the way out.
That was last week's or last month.
Yeah, exactly. It's £1 though. It doesn't matter, does it? It's £1. I don't care. I love it. And always there was that smell, and always the smell of horse manure as well. That just Green Street.
Horses, yeah.
Oh God, dear. Never cleared up. Anyway, we reminisce as we always do on this channel, Nick. The first question I want to ask, 8.5 minutes in, that's not bad for me actually, is why West Ham, Nick? So why? You're born in Bristol.
What for? I could have escaped this misery, but no.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was born in Bristol, brought up in Bristol. I went to a school that played rugby, and my dad used to take me to watch rugby at the weekend, so I was a rugby supporter, always watched rugby. And I only ever saw football really, cup finals on somebody's TV. We didn't have a TV of our own, but we used to go in somebody's house and watch the cup finals. And then I went off to university, 62, and I did a postgraduate degree, finished in 66. And that's when, of course, West Ham won the World Cup, and I became aware of them. Although it wasn't the mayhem that it is now. I mean, people go on as if it was the same. In 66, not everybody was watching football. Yeah. It wasn't my primary concern, I know, because I was just leaving university, and I got a job teaching at the University of Baghdad. So I was leaving
Jeez.
Brighton, where I was at university, and going to Baghdad, and I was getting myself ready and thinking, what the hell have I let myself in for? But I was aware of the football as well,
Yeah.
So as far as I was aware of the football, it was just West Ham, and they therefore became the team I looked out for. And then years later, when I changed my career and everything and decided I was laughingly going to be an actor, I was friends with this guy called Roger Martin, who worked on oil rigs. He had a little bit of money, more than most people, because he worked on oil rigs. And he had 2 season tickets for West Ham. And because he had a bit of money, he not only lent me some money to get the deposit on my first house when I moved up to London in 1973, but I became part of going to West Ham with him. So, as I say, he had 2 season tickets up in the East Stand, up in what later became the family enclosure up there.
Yes,
and there was 3 of us used to go together. Roger, who's from Ireland, a bloke called Frank Dobson. Do you remember him? He's became MP for Holborn, I think it was, Labour MP.
Yeah.
He's from Yorkshire, and me from Bristol, from the West Country. So
sounds like start of a joke.
So this is, my pitch here is that normally on these sort of things, people say, I was born into it. My granddad took me when I was 2 and all that. Now, we're the people who do not have any reason except we're fans.
Yeah.
And so I started going in 73 and I've never stopped.
Amazing.
And add to that, I've got another good friend, I don't see a lot of him, who I got in touch with through West Ham. He's a bloke called Dragomir. He lives in Serbia.
Yeah.
And he's a mad West Ham fan. And he shares in an extra ticket I've got. He comes over twice a year to watch a couple of West Ham matches, and he watches every single match back home in Serbia, and I communicate backwards and forwards to him about the game. So we represent the people who are not EastEnders, but we're still just mad West Ham fans.
Out of towners, they'd call us. I'm an out of towner as well. Essex. Yeah, exactly. Out of towners.
I don't think Essex is quite as out of town as Serbia or Bristol.
It'd still say it's out of town. I'd still be calling out of towner. That's true. It's funny. I've been very I think we've interviewed coming up to 400 people, whether they're players or fans and stuff like that. And we've interviewed guys from, where you've from Brighton to Baghdad, Bangalore to Brisbane to somewhere in America beginning with B. I can't think, but all over the place. And some people, we do a lot of stuff for the Iron Supporting Food Banks, and there's people donating from the Singapore Hammers and things like that. They're never going to step foot in Newham in their life, but they still donate because it's a charity to do with the area which they support. And a special bunch of fans.
My friend Dragomir does come over every year to see a couple of matches, but then he's not really like me in that he is a proper football supporter. I call a proper football supporter.
Yeah.
I don't care about football except West Ham.
Yeah,
I only watch other games. I will only watch like a Chelsea match if I think we're going to be playing them and I want to see what we're going to be playing, etc. Yeah. I'm not really interested what happens to any of the rest of them. Whereas my mate Dragomir, he'll come over for like 10 days. He'll see 2 West Ham matches. For some reason, he watches Yeovil matches. He'll go and see a couple of conference games. He'll go up and see something in Scotland. And then he'll go back and he supports Partizan back home. He travels everywhere because he loves football.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's not West Ham. I'm not interested.
I'm the same. To be honest, I'm very much the same. It's very rare. I've got a little bit sort of encapsulated with the whole Euros, but I think part of that was because of Declan Rice. And
exactly.
So and so I was but I was still watching, and then I have all the Czech boys or Yarmolenko and I would always get that sort of sense of relief when Dec was substituted because I could relax.
Well, except when he was substituted in that last match for the Liverpool captain, it all got worse, didn't it?
It got worse, but I was a bit relaxed. I thought, if it goes to penalties, he wouldn't have to take one. He might not, and he might miss it. Again, the West Hamness in me thinking.
Well, my only worry about all that is we all knew how good he was. Now the trouble is, everybody else who was saying he was overrated, now they all know how good he is. So they can keep their hands off. I hope.
Yeah. But I hope as well. At least for another season, a bit at least. But it's I don't watch a lot of football apart from West Ham. Obviously, West Ham's the only thing, Even my wife, are you watching the football tonight? No, we're not playing tonight.
I don't have Sky or any of that stuff because I don't care. I'm not interested. I don't watch football. But then now you're getting on to people being transferred or taken away from you. That's a thing that everybody gets very agitated about, and I have sort of contradictory views on that, really. I mean, I grew up going to the theatre in Bristol, and we used to have a young actor there called Peter O'Toole, who was a very good working class actor.
Yep.
And then he went on, he was in Lawrence, when he was in Lawrence of Arabia and all that. You don't go, oh, that traitor, he left Bristol Old Vic, do you? I mean, there was a good film I watched a few years ago called Attack the Block, local low budget film. There was a black guy in that called John Boyega. Then he went on, he's in Star Wars. You just say good luck to you. You don't go, what a traitor. What a bastard, leaving British independent films.
One of our own.
But there, on the other hand, if people go, that's why you won't find Rio or Lampard or Joe Cole in my team, because they went.
They went, and I think it's funny. We interview lots of ex-players as well, and that sort of question that I sort of spoke about recently with young Michael Hughes. Remember Michael Hughes, little winger, tricky winger from Northern Ireland, lovely bloke. And we were chatting, and
was it him that scored against Man United?
He did score the goal. Yes, he did score the goal that stopped Man United winning the title when we drew 1-1. Blackburn won it, and also the first Bosman signing. There we go. And we were talking about sort of transfers, and he says the trouble is with money in the game now. I think there's a disconnect between the fans always have this view of they should be playing for the love of the badge and and with the foreign influence and also with the money in the game, that for a lot of the lads it's a career. You don't get Mark Nobles anymore now. You just don't.
Well, in my business, it's a career too. You don't stay at Bristol, you go on to films if you can. But on the other hand, we are as fans. You stay with your team. You can change. You can change your wife, but you can't change your football team. That's the way it is, I'm afraid. But,
now you tell me. It's true. That is true. You're very right. He's very right. And I just think that sometimes, and it's funny because some people, I remember in the summer last year, we were almost walking Declan Rice to Stamford Bridge. The assumption was that he was definitely going. He was like, okay, good luck to you. Okay. But then, I don't know, 15 years ago, Scott Parker left to go to Tottenham and he was vilified. And, it's just like, we pick and choose.
If you're going to go on about West Ham memories, for me, one of my big memories is the 1980 Cup final, being at Wembley, seeing that. Now, Trevor Brooking, Billy Bonds, we were in the second division. They didn't go. They were with us when we won the cup. Yeah. So
it's true. That's true.
That is. It may not be the way the world is now, but I preferred it then.
Yeah. No, totally. And I mean, when we interview people like Tony Gale, I remember we interviewed Tony Gale once, and he said that he was at West Ham for 11 years, and for 10 of those years, it was a testimonial for someone in the squad. And there's reason why you can. I went to a Frank and Tony Cotty and Mark Ward night the other week, and there's a reason why it's sold out. There's not the stories aren't going to change. It's the same stories, but people go because they represented a certain time and showed loyalty for the club. And in the same way, I don't think that 25 years time we're going to get an evening with Sebastian Haller and Felipe Anderson, at the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch.
Listen, Russ, I would like to come back and redo this interview in 10 years' time and then put Declan in my side, but I doubt it.
Yes. Who knows? You just don't know though with West Ham. You know what I mean? As I've got these permanent claret tinted glasses on about Declan Rice at the moment. In terms of look who he looks up to, Mark Noble. That's all I'm saying.
Me too, but just let my dreams they fade and die.
We're so used to it. Exactly, it's so different, isn't it? Oh, so eloquently put. So obviously you went to 1980 FA Cup final. I mean, obviously the last time you actually won something apart from the Intertoto Cup. Of course, we forget the Intertoto Cup and a couple of Betway trophies.
And the promotions, for the playoff promotions. I was there at Wembley for that, and I went to the Cardiff ones. We didn't win all them, but I went to the one against Blackpool.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was great. Oh, I love that. That was an amazing day for me because that was my daughter's due day.
God.
And I had a really good ticket. So So yeah, and then at 3 o'clock I had a phone call, and it was like the PPI call, because that's when PPI was still around. And yeah, luckily she was born a few days later. But yeah, I remember that that was just the most nervous game for two reasons. Obviously being promoted, but also the fact that Flo came along about 3 days later and changed my life, to be honest. But I've still got a picture of her in the trophy. In the playoff
oh my God, that's something to keep.
She's like scarred, like Harry Potter mark. She's marked at an early age. But yeah, because I knew it was going to be at Romford, the old Romford store, so I nipped in early, got a picture. So yeah, so she was permanently marked to the West Ham half, very very early age, about 3 days old, I think she was at the time. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that was a good time. But yeah, I mean, it's all these things, and I think I'm hopeful of some more exciting times coming up. I really am. I really am.
And there is something different about West Ham from other clubs. I think, particularly in the old days, it was very much, you felt it was. I'll tell you a little story about Billy Bonds for you. So my missus is she's in the television business as well. She's what they call a production coordinator. It means you organise a whole thing for a shoot. And so she worked for about 10 years on a show called London's Burning. You probably know London's Burning. Glenn Murphy's a big West Ham fan and all that. And somewhere in the late 90s, when Billy was the manager, they said they were going to try and do a little, on the weekends they do charity things. So they were going to do a charity match to raise money for something or another. I can't remember what. And they said, it'd be great if we got somebody from West Ham to play. Okay, Jen, could you organise that? That's what the coordinator was to do. So she got on the phone to West Ham and said, can I speak to Billy Bonds? And they said, oh, he's out training at the moment. She said, well, I'll call back. And they said, no, hang on. Put the phone down. There was long pause. And then suddenly you had clump, clump, clump of football boots running in. Hello, it's Billy here. And she said, oh, I'm working for West Ham and we're trying to do a charity match on such and such a date. Do you think you can get a team? Yeah, all right, Jen, we'll do that. And he put the phone down. And sure as good as gold, they turned up with a team. And that's all it took. There was no, can you imagine the bureaucracy it would involve nowadays to organise something like that?
Yeah.
She just phoned up, spoke to Billy, and he said, yeah, and they turned up.
I love the way, like, as you said, it's almost like, like when you pick the phone up and your mum picks up the phone and can I talk to Russ? Russ! It's like, Billy!
Out in training. Oh, stop training and runs in. Yeah. All right, Jen. Yeah, we'll do that. No problem.
I love it. Yeah, but again, it was a certain breed of and Billy epitomised it, and people like that. There was a certain. I mean, obviously, I started supporting West Ham. I properly get into the season we went up in 92, 93 season was my proper first season, and even then, there was nothing as exciting as walking down the road and seeing like. John, no, it's a bit later on, but maybe Pete Butler was the first ever player I met, and I was like obsessed with Pete Butler, and seeing them, and they were just all so approachable. Now, it was like footballers were just relatable, and as you said, Billy, oh yeah, I saw a team, yeah, like it was, your mate.
And yet they still are in a way your heroes in a sort of way, aren't they? I don't know any of them personally, but I mean, I work in the film and TV, so I've worked with a lot of so-called famous stars and stuff. It doesn't impress me. They're just people to me doing the same job as me. But here's a thing that my most impressive thing. I did in somewhere in the late 90s. I was asked to be in this TV show it was a show for kids or teenagers called Renford Rejects. You're unlikely to have heard
I remember the Renford Rejects. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I remember Renford Rejects.
So they were a youth club team, and they weren't very good, but that was the story. And then there was an episode in something like in the mid-90s called "They Thought It Was All Over." So you know what that's about. So they had two senior teams. They put out a senior team, and the bad guys put out a senior team. And the senior rejects team, they got on these 4 old geezers, and they said they were such idiots. They didn't know what a wing back was. They were all talking about inside left, inside right. Weren't they hopeless? And of course, they had Gordon Banks, Martin Peters, Jeff Hurst, and Georgie Cohen in that side. I was employed to be on the other side, the bad guys' side, and I played somebody called Alfie Clogs, who was supposed to kick them to pieces. So anyway, it was only a kid's show, but I got to play with those guys.
Wow.
And on the end screen credits, when it goes down, there's a page when you have your credits. I've been on credits with lots of very famous people.
Of course.
But there was a credit there which said Gordon Banks, Jeff Hurst, Martin Peters, George Cohen, Nick Brimble. That is the one credit I keep. I thought that was I'm really impressed by myself to be on that show.
As That's a good question, actually. Obviously, I've interviewed lots of footballers, and they keep all their programs and things like that. You know, obviously, for you, do you obviously? I mean, do you all the films and TV? Do you keep those as memories, or do you just
Not really, no.
not really?
Not really, no.
No.
I've got my program from the 1980 Cup final, but
That's the important stuff, Nick. That's what
yeah,
I mean.
exactly.
Important. Yeah, you might have, been on Knights Tower, Keith led. Yeah, you might have done that. Yeah, you might have done Robin Hood. Yeah, but you were at the 1980 FA Cup final, see Trevor Brooking score that
They're
goal.
only scummy actors, the same as me. I mean, what's nothing impressive about that?
I love it. Oh dear. Right, let's talk about your Hammers 11. Now, obviously, as you said, sort of the early...
So you've got in the background that I didn't play football growing up. I'm not a fool. I don't know much about what I'm talking about. All I know is what I like. So it may not make any sense as a team.
I don't care. Nick. It's your
team. I'm not a manager or a coach. It's my team.
It's your team.
Okay, so what are we starting in goal, are we?
Starting goal. Go on in.
Well, now, again, I've got a dilemma straight away. I think Phil Parkes might be the best goalkeeper of my era, but I can't ignore Ludo because of that match against Man United, can I?
Yeah.
So I've got to pick Ludo.
Yeah. A giant of a man.
I just remember there, although I remember the 80th Cup final, I remember being there with him stopping everybody and, as you say, Hughes scoring and what was it, a draw in the end, but we stopped them winning and it was just a great atmosphere. And Ludo was just such a good character. He may not be the best goalkeeper, I don't know, but he certainly was good and I'd have to pick him, I think.
Yeah. And for me, I was interviewing the guy the other day and we was talking about Ludo and he just seemed to be, I mean, obviously in my, from sort of the early 90s onwards, he seemed to just be in goal forever. He was always in goal.
Yeah, he was. Did seem to be.
He did seem to be, yeah. Towards the end, maybe sort of, the thing is, I always get this impression. My granddad, God rest his soul, he always called him Loopy Ludo, and it's still in my head. So I always think, oh, Loopy Ludo, bless him. But top man, absolutely, and love the club,
absolutely.
love the club.
Absolutely. So we can put Phil Parkes on the bench.
Phil can go on the bench.
Yeah,
we'll put Phil on the bench. He'll be all right. With that. He'll be okay. He'll get his appearance fee. He's fine. Right. Okay. Let's move into defence then.
Okay. Well, in the middle, although I didn't see a lot of him, but how can you not have Bobby Moore? I mean, sorry. Everybody will have had him there, but you can't not have him, can you?
No, definitely not.
And I'll put Alvin next to him, I think.
Oh, good old Alvin. And as you said, obviously 66 was the reason why he got into West Ham. So
I did watch him play a bit, and then I watched us beat him when he was playing for Fulham and in the 75 Cup final and all that. So, but you can't not have him. And Alvin was just so fantastic, wasn't he? So,
oh, amazing.
And he, like Parksy or Ludo, he seemed to be there forever.
Oh yeah, it seemed to be there. It just kept on going on and on and on. I mean, I saw him towards the end of his career, so obviously, last couple of years, but still, and again, a guy who epitomised sort of what West Ham was all about. He came down from Merseyside at 16, I think he signed for us, and still lives around the area, still lives around, his grandson's in the same year as my daughter at school, so you still see him there. He still does the school fetes, and
right.
No airs or graces. He'll be doing the tombola. Love him. Alv. Right, I'll put Moro and Alvin then. Who's next?
Fullbacks.
Yes.
Well, you see, now I started. Frank Senior was quite around a lot when I first started, and he was very good and all that. But you've covered where I come from and what my background is. How can I not have Dixie?
You can't put the Bristolian in, yeah.
It's the only footballer I know talks proper. You know what I mean? He talks properly like what I do, really. I think he was born in Keynsham, just up the road where I used to go rowing in the boat, and we used to go canoeing at the weekends. And then he came down into Bristol around Knoll West. Not many people talk proper like what I do, and he does. I mean, I don't know if you watch rugby at all, but there's a guy called Ellis Genge who plays for England now. He's from Knoll West. He's another one who talks proper. He's a good player too.
Big lad, isn't
he? He's a tough guy. But with Julian, you need a bit of steel in the side, and Julian certainly had that, and he was good as well.
Yeah.
And he could take a penalty, couldn't he?
We'll show them boys on Sunday how to take the penalty, that was for
sure.
Well,
even if you get your hand to it, it goes in hand and all, doesn't it? It doesn't
Peter Schmeichel for his penalty, wasn't it? It sort of bent his arm back. But I love Julian. He's a lovely bloke. My office is split between London and Bristol. Just as a little side, Jerry. I can't remember. I don't know. I know how to get there, but I don't know where it is. I know it's near a McDonald's. Does that help? That's all I can remember. It's near a
I
McDonald's.
really left Bristol properly in '62. There wasn't any McDonald's then. I still used to go back to see my mum, obviously, and all that. But yeah, I grew up there. Everything was there, and it was in those days. It was a different place. I remember once, just before I was going to university, and I had to come up to London to get something. And I was buying something in a shop, and I said, "I'm going to London." And the girl said to me, "What, today? It's like another world. It's as if you needed a visa or something." But now people commute now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I have to go to Parkway, and so it's that side of Bristol, and so yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And we sort of the guys commute in to London from Bristol sometimes, and it's just it's just how the world is now, isn't it? But I like that we're going like today. You haven't packed, you haven't got your cagoule, and you haven't got your packed lunch in case you don't like the water over there and stuff
it's
like
dangerous up there, you know.
Right, we'll put you. Who's going to be the other fullback then?
It's got to be Tonka, hasn't it? Ray Stewart.
Oh, lovely Ray Stewart. Lovely.
So we'll be all right for penalties, won't we?
We'll be all right for penalties.
With them two.
I don't know how many games they'll be playing because of VAR, but doesn't matter.
We can get rid of VAR. I'm the wrong era for all that. Get rid of VAR.
Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
What?
It was all right for us in '66, didn't he? VAR for that one, did we? I watched it actually. I did watch it on the telly. It was on the telly on Channel 4 the other day. And,
I saw a bit of it.
Yeah.
That was the different commentary, wasn't it? It wasn't because it was the BBC one that had they think it's all over. It
was the ITV commentary for it, which wasn't. It just didn't sound right. No, it didn't sound right because it's anonymous, isn't that last part where he's like he doesn't do it. He goes, "What?"
Some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now.
It is now. Absolutely brilliant. But they got the colour wrong because they all had red shirts, and I thought they were claret and blue shirts. England team had that because I was hoping we'd get the double. I was hoping we'd be able to do the double and win the Euros as well as the World Cup.
The Euros we only had one hammer, so
that's why. That's why you see, Mark Noble would have taken a penalty. That's for sure.
Would have done.
And Antonio, he knocked one in, didn't he? Man United away last season before last. Right. Okay. So we've got Stewart, we've got Moore, we've got Martin, we've got Dixie, we've got Ludo in goal. Let's go into midfield then, Nick. Who we got?
Midfield. Well, in the middle. I'm sorry, but this is my era. It's got to be Bonzo and Sir Trev, wasn't it? Really?
Yes.
The two of them together, that silky, the way he just turned and the ball, he didn't seem to touch it. He just turned, went with it, and everybody else fell over.
Everyone says that about him. Everyone says that.
It was just so easy. The ball would come to him, and he just sort of turn and let it run, and he didn't even seem to touch it. But the other guys just fell down. And if anybody tried to stop him by kicking him, Billy would sort them out.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's interesting actually because I was talking to someone about the sort of Bonzo and Brooking, and for me, they sort of epitomise. If you categorise like West Ham cult heroes, West Ham legends, they feel basically they're either in a Billy Bonds like Venn diagram or they're in a Trevor Brooking Venn diagram. They're either silky players like Bond, like that Brooking and Payet and people like these sort of very silky players, or they're tough men like Billy Bonds, Julian Dix, and it's like, and that combination, Brooks, but
they work together. Player. That's why, although exactly. I know he was in defence, but when he moved into midfield and played with Brooking, that's in a way, that's what I really loved. The two of them together, they weren't the same, but they gelled perfectly.
I know exactly what you mean. Okay, we'll put Sir Trevor and Billy.
And then attacking wide.
I was about to say, you've got 3 players named after stands at West Ham.
Well, I sit in a Billy Bond stand, so
there we go.
And in the 66 seats. Yeah, I'm very pleased when they named it. That was the best thing about moving there. I don't like anything much about it, but when they named the stand after him and all that, that was great.
That was a nice day when they did that as well.
Clapped straight at us. I love that.
Yeah.
And he had a little talk with I think before the match. Was it before or after? I don't know. Anyway, I forgot what I'm talking about now. But never mind. My brain goes. Oh, I think I know what I was going to say. I had a picture of him talking to Declan and sort of bonding with him. I hope that might mean Declan wants to say, but who knows?
Well, the fourth stand's all. There's one more stand to name.
Well, you could tell that to him. Yeah. So we want some wide attackers now.
Yes, we do.
This is where my team may not work as a team, but I don't care. So I've got to have Devonshire, haven't I? From my era, I could not have Alan Devonshire.
What a player!
I just loved watching him, and he was just wonderful, and he was perfect. And I think I don't know if it really works on the other side or not, but I'm going to have my only foreigner. It's going to be, it's got to be Paolo, hasn't it?
Yeah, put Paolo
I
in.
mean,
Yeah, he'll do it. He'll do a job there. He'll do
mad
a
as a
job
box of frogs, but he's just wonderful and lovely. And you still see him interviewed wearing a claret blue suit.
Oh,
in
crazy,
Rome.
isn't he?
He's round the bend, but he was just brilliant for us, and it was a lovely time.
And he epitomised. We say sort of the Bond or Brookings sort of like types of player. In a weird way, Paolo was a little bit in the middle, because he was like he'd think I mean, pushed over a referee, for God's sake, but also
that ref took a dive. He did.
we interviewed Nigel Winterburn the other day, and he was saying, he said, I said, what happened the first day you turned up? Because obviously Paolo was there and you're there and you shouted, and he went, honestly, they took the piss, and they basically made me sit next to Paolo in training, like. But he says, we had a giggle, we had a real fun time. But yeah, he was just crazy, Paolo. He was an entertainer. We want to be entertained, don't we? And he does, and he was fantastic. I love Paolo. Right, okay, so we'll put Paolo in. Although you put him in a position, he'll just go wherever he wants.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right. Then I'll play with two strikers. Now, there you go. I started with Jeff Hurst. You should have, but I'm not going to. He'll have to go on the bench, I'm afraid.
Yep, fair enough.
When I started, really, it was Pop Robson, and I used to love watching him.
Oh, lovely.
And I loved it when it was Psycho Cross was there. But from my era, I've got to go with Frankie Mack and TC, haven't I? Really?
Oh, they'll be happy. Frankie and TC.
What a great time that was. And I loved the fact that at that time, when it wasn't on TV, nobody knew who Frankie Mack was. Nobody knew who he was, except us.
Yeah.
And he was just great. And we should have won the league that year.
Should have done, yeah. Yeah, should have done. And I think with those two, it's funny. I was talking to Mr. McAvenny the other day, and we was talking about a football. It was either Football Focus or some sort of whatever the program was at the time, and it was him on Tower Bridge or something like that.
They were stopping people and saying, "Do you know who this is?" And everyone said, "No."
And he was like, I couldn't believe they made me just sit here. They made me stood there. And I'm like, do I know who this man is? And they said no. And I was like, I scored how many goals in the league this year? And they still don't know who I am.
It wasn't on TV.
Yeah, absolutely crazy, isn't it? Crazy. And again, that's such a typical West Ham thing. The season was our best season ever. There's hardly any footage because it wasn't filmed. In the same way that the last season was one of our best seasons of all time. There was no bugger in the stadium. It just made no sense. But unlike but you could see every bloody game last year, so it was a bit different. But yeah, right. Okay, so let's have a look at that team. There we go. Right, where is it? There we go. When I press the right button, there we go. Oh, what a team! What a team!
Doesn't look too bad, does it? Does it make any sense? I think it
does. Yes, of course it makes sense.
I've said, are we allowed a bench? Because I can put Bob Robson into the bench as well. Definitely, if he stays, goes in the bench.
Yeah.
Tricky Trev Sinclair's got to go on the bench. How many are we allowed? Antonio, no.
It's about 50 now, isn't it?
Can I have pre-injury Dean Ashton and pre-injury Jack Collison to go in there as well?
What great, pre-injury,
Because what a terrible thing that happened to both of those two.
Mm-hmm. They're just lovely. They're lovely boys as well. I mean, Jack's having a great time at Atlantic United.
Where is that? That's in America somewhere. Where is it?
Atlanta United. He's the second team coach.
Well, good luck to him.
Yeah, he's a great lad and brilliant. No, and I mean nowadays there's about 20 people on the bench now, isn't there? It's nowadays it's just like put another team on. I mean, you could easily do another team. Nick, man, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Russ.
Really fun. Really fun. And thank you to everyone for watching. For myself and from Nick, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care.